Ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, welcome back to the Thinking I Like podcast. Look, we are talking about having children out there like becoming the norm, being the norm, and all that good stuff. We started to carve the meat off the bone, so we're gonna jump back into it, but make sure you follow us on whatever podcast platform that you subscribe to. Hit us up on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's
YouTube, and again, KINGANDEYE369 at gmail.com. Again, that's KingandI369 at gmail.com. I'll let your boys. Let's get it in. Let's chop it up. You got a topic idea? Send it in.
yeah. So jumping back into it, we kind of touched on this next point of our kids out of wedlock looked at differently than married couples' children. I can't say as far as now because I don't hear about it as much. My youngest son, he hasn't complained about anything like that. So I think it's become so normal that it's not an issue. Again, it's so commercialized and all this other nonsense. So I really don't think that it's such a big deal as it used to be. But I could be wrong.
I feel like, it's not that big of a deal anymore. I remember as a kid growing up, it was a hell of a deal then. Because I had friends, who were single or had single parents. And just what, hearing grown folks talk about, this child, like, where's his daddy or where's her daddy or something like that. I'm like, the fuck that got to do with you? You know what I'm saying? And this is me as a child saying that. I'm like, what the fuck do that have to do with you? How do my friend not having a mother or father in their life impact you? I never got that. It made no sense to me. Even then, at an age of 7 or 8 and beyond, I thought the shit was crazy in myself.
I think that's one of those things where people like to insert their opinions in places where they don't need to.
True.
It could be partly from some shit that they've been through and they've overcome, and now they can turn their nose up to it. But yeah, because I think I can remember having people talk under their grown-ups talk under their breath about me, when it comes to that. But what's the big deal? Like, as an adult, shut your ass up. You should be nurturing that child and letting that child know that they're not a problem because of their situation that they had nothing to do with.
Yeah. Like, I remember having this one friend who, he was kind of rough around the edges. But I remember our neighbors, couple older females, they're talking about him like, he's not gonna amount to shit, and he just a badass, and I don't give a damn what his mama do. There's just no helping that boy, and just shit like that. I'm like, man, y'all bitches are crazy.
Right.
Like, y'all really gonna sit up here and talk about this child, and y'all don't even know this child. Don't have any interaction with this child. You have no idea what, my friend has gone through in the course of his life. Not the first fucking thing. But you're gonna sit up here and say that because he doesn't fit the idea of what you think he should?
Toxic.
So, and this is when I was living in Virginia, man. I was blown away by that shit. I remember thinking to myself, y'all bitches are crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy that people do that.
Yeah. Like this child has no bearing on your life or your child whatsoever. So who the hell are you to have an opinion on what this person will amount to?
Right. Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah, it is. So why are men considered responsible for raising a child on his own, and women are looked at as being irresponsible or not being responsible when it comes to having a child?
I'm going to give my assumption like this. Men have been getting a bad rap for this for so long, as far as being deadbeat, not present, whatever the case may be. And then you have a lot of situations to where the curtain is pulled back and they realize the woman is the evil puppet master behind the curtain. And it's unfortunate for a lot of women because there are a lot of women out there who have situations where the man ain't nothing. And due to certain circumstances, the man ends up with the child, and now she's looking like the villain. It could be the man out there spreading nonsense where he should just shut the hell up and, focus on the child and not trying to, degrade the mother.
Right.
But I think another part of it is men look attractive to a lot of women when they are single fathers raising a child, especially a daughter. That's a panty dropper for a lot of people.
Yeah, I say that the men that I know who, are responsible and raise their kids on their own. Again, I salute that. But I think a lot of women, again, who abandon their kids, and do leave them in the care of the father. I kind of I think bad of them, but I can't think too bad of them simply because at least they were responsible enough to let the father have the child. Meaning not give them to their grandparents or their parents and say, here, raise my responsibility, instead of, letting the father raise his own kids. As far as women who raise kids on their own, everybody want to say these are strong women, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I kind of feel bad for some of them who have no other choice but to raise them on their own because of the person that they chose to have this child with,
right.
Meaning someone who wasn't responsible. But again, for whatever reason, some people still, look at females like they did it to themselves on their own. And I think there's a whole bunch of BS right there.
Another part of that is because women for a long time have been bitter Bettys and bragged about doing this, doing that to men. Again, it's this thing that a lot of women have portrayed. On one hand, don't toot your horn. Oh, I'm an independent woman. I'm raising my child by myself, and this, that, and the other. When there may be circumstances behind that. You could have did some grimy stuff. You could have been just being fast, or things didn't work out, or whatever the case may be, and you're programmed to think a certain way about what you're doing when this is what you should be doing. You should not be celebrated for raising your child. Period. you should be commended for raising your child correctly, but you shouldn't be celebrated for raising your child. That's your child. For these women who give up their child, I can't come down on a lot of them because, again, there are certain situations to where it's like, hey, it's your child. I'm gonna let you raise your child because you need that time, and we work it out. I want to do this, and I think the child be better off with you while I'm trying to do this, that, and other. Perfectly fine. But those who give up their child because they're bitter, they put themselves in a situation to where they're just on dire straits. You know, it's like, why do you wait till you get to, you know, damn near rock bottom before you say, hey, I gotta give up my child? You know, I just don't get it. So that's why in some cases women are looked at as not being responsible because because of that. And the other thing is, you know, our society has a way of saying, on one hand, it takes two to tango. Then on the other hand, they say, well, the woman holds the keys when it comes to moving this car. But it's like, you can't juggle both of those concepts. It's like, it takes two to tango. Yes, and the woman decides that she's going to let that man play in there. But it takes both of them to be like, hey, we're going to do this responsibly. So sometimes it's unfair to look at some women as not responsible, but sometimes it's like, yo, you did some irresponsible shit, and now, you know, you giving this man an easy out in some cases to where he looks like he's a responsible parent. But again, these guys who are in these situations, they don't need to be out there bashing no woman for, you know, because he's raising the children on his own. So what? Like, that's your child. Like, shut the hell up, just raise your child.
Yep. I'll say this. I have seen situations where men have wanted to be responsible and have been responsible, but the mother moved on in life, of the child moved on, meaning, you know, she got a new boyfriend or new man or whatever the case may be. And there are times when that new father or stepdaddy comes in and plays a role. So it changed the dynamic of the relationship between the child and the father, because not only do I have a biological father, I have a stepfather. So again, when you have situations like that, I commend anyone who is willing to step into the situation and help raise a child that they did not create. At this stage in my life, do I think I could do that? You know, if things were to go awry in my current situation, I don't think I could, not at this age. But again, the responsibility of raising a child is heavy, man. It's heavy. And especially when you don't have the resources. So anytime someone can step in and help you raise that child, again, kudos to them. So how big of a role does having multiple kids out of wedlock play in the growth of the parent and the child?
I'm going to let you have that one first.
All right. So when you have females who have multiple kids, you know, out of wedlock, and they're not with either one of those kids' father, I think that's a hell of a role to play, because you got 2 or 3 damn kids and you're young and you still trying to raise yourself to a certain extent, and then you trying to raise this child, man, or these kids, not a child, but these kids. That's a heavy task. Very heavy task.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that it shapes females, who may be ambitious, who actually do want something out of life, but because of these circumstances, meaning having multiple kids, you kind of like, again, you just derailed yourself from, to a certain extent, what kind of potential you may have had. And still not saying that you can't reach that potential, but again, it damn sure throw the brakes on a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. My thing on that, because it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman who's having several kids out of wedlock. The problem I have with it is, for a man or woman who does this, you have to take into consideration, a lot of these people are not having multiple children out of wedlock with one person. You may have a person who has children with two people out of wedlock, whether it's 2, 3, 4 children out of wedlock. Then you got these people out here who have 5, 6 kids with 2, 3, 4 different women. That's where I see the problem is. Because now you have all these personalities to deal with. And people have these egos with them. So you have a man who has a child with a woman, and she goes out and have another child or children with another man or other people. If these men are not mature, they're going to be in their feelings about whatever the case may be. And, that creates a problem. Then you have these men who are out here, these men out here who are having children with several women. You got these women doing the same thing. They're bitter, they're jealous, they're whatever. So now you got women fighting each other over this dude who got all of y'all pregnant. You got women not allowing the children to interact with each other because they're upset about this dude having children with other women. So that part of it is what I dislike. And it's just sad. And then you have a man or a woman who has children with multiple people and get upset because the other person moves on and has a fruitful life, and your child is in a happy home with somebody else and you're not there, and now you mad. And it's like, why are you mad? You chose to opt out of raising this child. And this is for man and woman. You chose to opt out of raising this child. What am I supposed to do? Sit around and be miserable just like you? No. If I find somebody who makes me happy and they treat the child right, then that's where I'm going to be. You have no say-so in what I do with my life. You may have input on this child and what goes on with this child, but it's going to be minimal when it comes to me living my life because you chose not to be there. And why are you arguing with me when you got children with somebody else that you need to worry about as well? But you're picking a fight with me. So, yeah.
I'm not going to say my homeboy name, but, back in the day, he had a child with this female. Things didn't work out. They went their separate ways. She had 2 other kids with two other guys. But my boy was so real that anytime he'd go pick up his son, you know, if they're going to the park or you know, doing something special, he would take the other two kids because he knew that their fathers weren't doing shit for him.
Right.
So if he went and bought his child clothes, he'd buy them something. Or if he, you know, stopped by the store and got his child something, he'd get them something. And I mean, like, dude, you're a hell of a lot better than I am. Cause I just don't know if I would have been able to do that. But because he, you know, that's how he was raised, is, you know, not to hold grudges, he would do that. I just thought, you know, from a character standpoint, dude's like 8 foot tall in my eyes to do some shit like that.
Well, at the end of the day,
that shit is not going down for me.
It's not the child's fault. So,
no.
I would do that because, hey, it ain't that child's fault. I mean, for instance, my youngest son's mother, you know, we had our thing. You know, she got pregnant. She got married. I was, you know, feeling some type of way at first. But, you know, our situation was, when we started messing around, I was married. First and foremost, I was married. She knew it. She got pregnant. I went to Iraq, you know, and it is what it is. She eventually got married. You know, but the thing about it is, you know, although I felt some kind of way because my child was going to be under the roof with another dude, like, I can't be mad at her. I'm not going to tell her to not be married, not be happy, not live her life. Who am I to interrupt that? You know?
Right.
So, and that's the one thing that people need to understand now. Her and her husband eventually had their child. I didn't treat him no different from my own. You know, I could have been a jerk, a jackass, or whatever the case may be, and be like, oh, that's not my child, whatever. But that's my son's brother. And you know, I can't treat him bad because of how I feel about what his mother is doing with her husband in her life. So, you know, it's to the point. Now it got to the point. It's to the point whenever I come around, you know, little man is like, I got two dads, and it's like, I'm not even your damn stepfather. And for me, that is a fulfilling thing that child whose only relation to me is his brother, that feels good. So, but for me, if I'm in that situation and that child is innocent, that child ain't nothing to me. That woman doesn't owe me anything when it comes to that other child, but that comes with maturity. You need to be an adult in these situations. Yes, there was a time in my life where I said, I'll be damned if I do some shit like that. But with age comes wisdom, you know, and you have to be a pillar to these children who are growing up, especially for us. Because they don't have very many role models out there. They don't have very many adults that they can look up to. They don't have a lot of things out there. And if we turn our backs on them and they did nothing wrong, we gonna turn our backs on them when they do something wrong. And it's like we could have been there to help them out. So, yeah, I commend anybody who does that. And I would do it myself.
Yeah, I mean, again, kudos to anybody who can do that. I have an uncle who has a lot of biological kids, and he has a lot of kids that claim him as their father because he was always there, during the course of their lives. Anytime they needed something, if he had to give, he gave. A lot of times he didn't have it to give, he still gave.
Mm-hmm.
So there are men who have, that type of, I'm gonna say heart, because at that point, your heart is good as gold. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom will always say that, that person's heart is good as gold. And there are some men out there who are exactly like that. Even though they didn't make that child or had nothing to do with that child, because of the relationship with the mother, they still do for that child, meaning they're not going to let them struggle just for the sake of, well, this one right here is mine, that one right there ain't.
Right.
So I ain't worried about it. But again, kudos to any man who can do that.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to anybody's character.
Yeah, it does.
But, at the end of the day, we have to look in the mirror and be like, that child ain't do nothing. So why should I turn my back on this child when this child may be looking at me for whatever? So I mean, if you was with the mother then, and y'all not together, but y'all have a child in common, and she has other children, here's the thing that you gotta look at, though. People gotta look at. Let's just say a man has a child with a woman, and for whatever reason they not get together. She moves on, she has a child with somebody else. The dude moves on, he has a child with somebody else. Now, if you treat her other child like shit, you can't be mad if she treats your other child like shit. And a lot of people walk around with that messed up mentality. They blow that child off, but they say in their head, you treat my child wrong, it's gonna be a problem. It's like, wait a minute. Were you do you have that mentality when it comes to this other child? And, if you have that mentality about your child over here, then you need to have that same mentality with her child over there, and vice versa.
That's true. Just sitting here and hearing you talk about that, I had a situation where I was dating this young lady. I didn't have any kids of my own, but she had 3 sons, and her sons and we all 3 got along like they were mine. And her youngest son, I think, he had to be maybe about 2, something like that. But you could not tell me this child was not mine. And it just broke my heart and devastated me when things didn't work out between me and her. It's like, again, I missed the kids more than I missed her. Like, damn. But the way the ball bounces sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what? And the last thing I want to say on that is that's part of the problem when it comes to situations like that, and that is the reason why some men, well, mostly men, I can't speak for women, that's why a lot of men have an issue with another man's children when he's dealing with a woman, because they get attached, and when you get attached to a child, it's like you treat that child like your own, and when that child is snatched up out of your life for whatever reason, it's devastating. And a lot of men don't want to deal with that. It's an emotional thing that some men will not admit or acknowledge, but it's there, and men don't want to deal with that. So That's what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Opinion of Life podcast. We are talking about having kids, Wedlock being the norm. Hit us up on whatever podcast platform that you subscribe to. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. Until then.
You guys know y'all can hit us up on that YouTube. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. Again, KINGANDEYE369 @gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Till the next time.